Marinero, the Sick Podcast, the Montreal Canadiens have one preseason game left. And I know the preseason really shouldn't mean anything, but I see so many things that concern me to the point where I'm pessimistic, to the point where I'm negative, to the point where I'm glass half empty. So today on the Sick Podcast, I wanted to get a hold of the most positive person that I know to change my mood. But unfortunately, they didn't answer the phone. So I fell on somebody who's more negative than I am. Brendan Kelly of the Montreal Gazette. What the puck? What's going on?
I'm the most positive guy there is, Tony. I love life. The sun is shining. Everything's fine. The Habs are back in the Stanley Cup final this year. Everything's okay.
All right. That'd be good. That'd be nice. I'm sure they would take it. It's a Sick Podcast. The show is brought to you by Essentia, the world's only natural memory foam mattress. Go to myessentia.com/sickpod and use code SICKPOD for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia Beyond Organic Sleep. Brendan, I know it's preseason and I know it shouldn't be the end of the world, but I tend to panic every now and then. The Canadiens are sleeping.
Well, I mean, it's, I think it's going to be, you're right, I'm the prophet of doom, but I think that, you know what, it's going to be a difficult season. And I think the fact of the matter is that, like you said off the top, I mean, let's face it, the preseason it's so hard to read anything into that, but we are suffering from a major Stanley Cup final hangover. Like think about it, Tony, ever since we made it to the Stanley Cup final, since the first time since 1993 and had that incredibly inspirational playoff run, it's been a bit of a disaster. I mean, it really has. Like, let's go back through what's happened. Immediately, the news is Shea Weber will not play this season and may never play again. Marc Bergevin more or less saying he's retired. I mean, we don't really believe that. But anyways, he's not in the lineup. Then you lose, and everyone's like, oh, no big deal. He was our number one center. We lost Philip Deneau. Like him or loathe him, he was an important part of the team. We don't know the future of the general manager, so his position is in doubt, which puts a sort of, casts a shadow over the management of the team, and Marc Bergevin not saying he's going to stay beyond the year. Then there's the whole Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Again, we all have different opinions, but he was supposed to be a major part of this team, and now he's gone. And we brought in other players. The team has brought in other players, most notably Dvorak and David Savard.
And Hoffman, who we haven't seen yet because he's hurt.
Right. And then we go to more towards the present. Ryan Poehling, who, listening to TSN 690 over the last couple of months, one would think it was the second coming of something. He had turned out to be kind of like Ryan.
You didn't hear that from me.
No, but there's been
You never did.
There's been a lot of guys on your station very bullish on Poehling prior to training camp. And the reality is that Poehling has been just about as not so great as he has always been ever since they drafted him, except for one night in a meaningless game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he's been a disappointment.
You want to know what the reality is? The reality is they have as many doubts on Poehling as many members of the fan base do. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I can tell you that his name was out there in a possible trade. So he's not one of those prospects who they deem, has a great future. And listen, he might still pan out. And I don't, I wouldn't blame. I'm okay if he doesn't make the team. He has 3 seasons at St. Cloud State with 35 and 36 games a season. It's not a lot of hockey. He's got 64 total games at the American Hockey League level. Once upon a time, centermen used to play 250 games at the American Hockey League level. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record. And that is, number one, he's not ready. Not for the NHL. Number two, I don't think he's a centerman. I don't think he plays a good 200-foot game. I don't think he's got very good hockey IQ. I do think he's big and strong, and when he takes the guy to the outside and he puts his head down and he charges the net, that's more him, more of a cycle game, this and that. And the real big beef that I have with him, Brendan,
right,
is that he should leave it all on the ice in this training camp. And quite frankly, It doesn't look like he's doing that.
100%. So, and he doesn't look like, this is, I mean, it's not quite do or die. I suppose there could be another training camp here, but it's close to do or die for Ryan Poehling. We're getting a number of years into this thing, and he doesn't look like he's got the intensity level there. And if you're just saying and sounding like a broken record that he's not a centerman, if he's a winger, and if it turns out he's a bottom six winger, like who friggin' cares then? What's even the point of drafting the guy? Bottom six players you can pick up any day of the week. So he was supposed.
Well, I mean, what's the point of drafting him? They didn't know what he was going to become when they drafted him. I'd be willing to bet, but
of course, I mean, look, we all know like drafting is an inexact science, and so you never really know, right? I mean, but there was a lot of the one thing we do know, we don't know how players will turn out, but we do know that the Habs hype machine will go into overdrive with every first round draft pick, and they're going to say Kotkaniemi this and Poehling this, and you know what? Mostly these things haven't turned out all that well. I mean,
all right. So look, even though we shouldn't overreact, once again, I tend to do it every now and then. But today, I have no other choice but to be glass half empty. Hear me out. Carey Price had knee surgery in the offseason.
Correct.
Carey Price has not played a preseason game yet.
Correct.
Carey Price supposedly has been ill for the past 3 days, and Dominic Ducharme told us today he's not well at all. Joel Edmondson has an injury that's not getting worse, but it's not getting better. Usually, stuff like that doesn't end very well either. David Savard, liked him before, liked him in the playoffs, still do. He's not Shea Weber. The penalty kill, Danault won't be there. Weber won't be there. Byron won't be there. Price hasn't played a game yet. Those are arguably your four best penalty killers. Romanov looks like he dipped from a year ago and that he's actually not ready. Poehling, whatever. Mike Hoffman hasn't played a game yet. He's injured. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. Jonathan Drouin remains a question mark until he's able to do it in the regular season for an extended period of time to see if he's bounced back. We all hope that he will. I'm glass half empty today, man.
Well, you know what?
I feel like Brendan Kelly.
I mean, and how great is that to feel like Brendan Kelly? I mean, that's you count your lucky stars.
I wouldn't mind if I was making Brendan Kelly money. I'll tell you that right now.
Millions just pouring in, but I mean, it's no.
Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. You have a Swiss bank account?
Yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't, right?
I don't.
No, I don't either. I have a Canadian bank account. Very modest lifestyle here, but there's a huge amount of question marks there. I mean, look, the injury thing. I mean, obviously every team has to deal with injuries, but the one that gets me is not. I mean, look, you get an injury, but how many times have I seen this Carey Price film? Basically every year since 2016. So it's been.
You know what? Listen, I really want to know what's plaguing him. I really want to know. He's a public athlete. There's public interest. I want to know what's going on. Does he have the flu? Because if he does, I know 20,000 people and none of them right now have the flu. I want to know. We were told it's not COVID related. What is it? I want to know because
I'm sure
the Canadians are not going to make the playoffs without Carey Price. They may not even make the playoffs with Carey Price. I'm so upset right now. I need a drink. Cherry River, hard seltzer, only 90 calories, Brendan. You don't have to worry about it. Natural flavors, no preservatives, now available in Quebec grocery stores and the beer store as well. By the way, this is Yuzu Lime. Yuzu Lime.
Wow. But, sounds great. But,
it's good.
I'm sure, those question marks about what's wrong with Carey Price. I mean, I'm shocked, and I say shocked, Tony, that the Canadiens' public relations department hasn't fully come clean with his ailment. #sarcasm, because guy gets the sniffles and is treated like the Kremlin over at the Bell Center is not going to tell you what it is. Remember, anyways, all of my point. Remember when Stefan Waite was fired between period? I mean, was it?
Yeah, after the second period.
After the second period,
Price had just given up a bad goal a minute or two before.
And Bergevin comes into the lodge and he says, "We got to make a coaching change." And you remember what Stefan Waite said to him? He said, obviously they're speaking in French. He says, yes.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Mind you, having said that,
He thought it was a
couple
joke.
of days ago, Stéphane Waite on Antichambre, Run RDS, told them that now that he had a chance to think about it, and he's had a couple of conversations with Marc Bergevin since his firing, that he believes that Marc Bergevin made the right move. He talked about how long he worked with goalies in the past, and he said he worked 8 years with Carey Price, and that was a very, very long time. And come to think of it, he says that Carey Price did need to hear another voice. So,
you know what? I mean, he's, of course, Stéphane Waite is going to say that at this point because he needs to, he's
why?
got
He doesn't have to say that.
Well, I mean, there's not, other than Robin Lehner, there's not too many people out there who openly criticize other people in the league. And I think Stéphane Waite was quite candid when he was leaving and what he said. Because just to finish that anecdote, he said, firstly, he said, "You're joking," as in they're old friends, right? They worked together in Chicago.
Of course.
He thought he wasn't saying it angry. He literally thought Mark was making a joke.
Yeah, because Mark's known as a prankster. Yeah.
Between period 2 and period 3, and and what Bergevin said to him after that, he said, "Hey, the reason I'm doing this," he says, if Carey lets in any more goals like that, I'm the next one.
If Carey doesn't get back on track, he said, then I'll be the next one let go, according to what Stéphane Waite told us. Yes.
Point Stéphane Waite was that he also said in that same interview, he said Carey's been beat up and he's suffering from this, that, and the other. Like, in other words,
Brendan, he said it right here on the Sick Podcast. He talked about Carey Price's history of injuries with knees, with legs, with hips, with groin, with back. And he said within 2 to 3 years, the Canadians are going to have to make a decision here, because at that point, Caden Primo will be ready, and Carey Price is deteriorating, declining. And
when's the last time, Tony, that Carey Price, who, and just to, because people think I'm just a font of negativity. Carey was amazing, stand up, amazing until the final where he was not as great. But those first 3 series, he was unbelievable.
We could give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt too, because in the final he went up against the best team that he had faced in the playoffs. Clearly a better team than his team.
Yes, but he was, when he said that, remember he said I should have been better the first 2 games. He was brutally honest, and he was right. And but the point is,
to Carey's defense, if I can,
sure.
If Carey's in goal for Tampa and Vasilevsky's in goal for the Canadians, Tampa Bay still wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any scenario. I mean, anything's possible, crazy, but basically, there's no way Montreal is beating Tampa Bay last spring. I mean, it's just not. But when?
So now you could give Bergevin a break.
What's that?
Now you could give Bergevin a break. You just talked about him, that he might not be back as the general manager. Why do you think he doesn't want to come back? Because of you.
It's because if he can't.
Because of you've been destroying the guy for the last 8 or 9 years. Is that enough?
I'm playing my violin. I mean, how much money does Monsieur Bergevin make?
I don't know his contract. I would guess
3.
Anywhere between 2.5 to 3. And if he doesn't make that much, he needs a new agent. So, I'm available.
Right. And he wants a lot more than that. And he'll probably get a lot more somewhere else, which is where it's sunnier than here. Right.
The general manager and the vice president of the Montreal Canadiens deserves to make more money than that. Don't you think?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if you're paying, you're paying Claude Julien 5. So
I would say 365 days in a year. That job is worth at least $3.65 million per year.
Which job? The GM's job?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But my point, his salary is only that. So you know what? If you're making 3.5, hey, deal with what the puck. That's the way I look at it. Deal with. You know what? There's not many critics out there, anyways. I mean, so generally people are pretty upbeat about the Habs, and so I mean, look, they got to the Stanley Cup final, but I mean, I just. You
worried about this Price thing, and I'm going to say this, okay? As good as Carey Price was last year in the playoffs, and as good as he was 5 years ago when he won all those individual awards, and as good as he is when he plays his best hockey, deep down inside, he was hoping he was going to get claimed by Seattle.
that whole story is quite interesting because, look, he hasn't had a solid, good season since the year he won all the hardware, which I think is 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. So he has not had a good year. It's been partly injuries, but it's been partly just crappy play. And anyone who says anything else doesn't live on the same planet as us. And he was amazing in the playoffs. But the reason he was, I mean, I think most of us would agree, the reason he was amazing in the playoffs is because he didn't play most of big chunk of the regular season. So
he was fresh. He was fresh.
And he was fresh in the bubble too. So
like this Cherry River Hard Seltzer over here, fresh.
Exactly. So, but can he do a full season and have a good season? I mean, like I always say to you, the only thing we can base our analysis on is what has happened. And he hasn't had a good season for 4 or 5 years. So,
and you know what? I'm going to add something else. Okay. This can change. Right now, I don't like their chances. I just don't. And the fact that they had a short summer and they're injury plagued, and look, Tampa Bay had a short summer. They came back and they won the Stanley Cup. I get that. They're not Tampa. Price not well. Edmondson not getting better. Savard's not Weber. Weber's gone for the year. Paul Byron is out long-term. Carey Price hasn't played a game yet. Hoffman is hurt too. Drouin remains a question mark. Philip Deneau is gone. Romanov looks like he's taken a step back. He might have a sophomore jinx. I don't know, man. Can you please cheer me up? Please?
It's going to be fine. My son says 21-year-old Keener says they're making the Stanley Cup final again. So there's something upbeat.
Wow. But so you think Bergevin's situation could be a distraction? Do you believe that? Because I don't think so. It's still business as usual. Nothing's going to change.
It's already a distraction. It's distracting me. I can't focus on my work.
Why?
I'm working. No, but
he's still going to do his job. He's not going to stop working.
He's not going to stop working. But I mean, it's a big. What I hear, entre les branches, as we say in the local.
What do you hear?
I hear that there's a lot of pressure on Molson to get this situation settled, and they want him to. We do know, I mean, pretty well know, because Elliot Friedman tweeted prior to the playoffs.
Yeah,
we're in discussions. What that meant was, in my view, and we're all just speculating because they won't tell us anything.
Okay, I'll give you my speculation. You give me yours.
Well, mine is that Molson made him an offer, and Bergevin, and remember the position that the Habs were in going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
They had a pretty terrible regular season. And the second half of it was worse.
Yep.
And the only reason they got into the playoffs is they played the Vancouver Canucks 9 times. So they snuck into the playoffs. And even then, Jeff Molson was ready to give him an offer. And you know what Marc Bergevin said? Even in that position, he said, you know what? I'm going to wait. And then they go through the playoffs, and of course they do incredibly well, and you got to give credit to Bergevin. It's his team. Then Molson makes him another offer, and it's still not good enough. And what I hear is there is pressure from the other partners in this consortium for Molson to get this settled, because they want him signed up, because it is a distraction.
You want to know why?
Because
for several reasons. Number one, he got to the Stanley Cup final, no particular order. Number two, his last 3.5 years on the job have been fantastic. I'm not talking about the first 7. I'm talking about the last 3.
How'd they do the last 2 seasons, Tony?
In his last 3 seasons, if you take a look at every trade that he's made and what he's done with asset management and the fact that the team went to the Cup final, he's done a really good job. And number 3, knowing the prerequisites that you need to speak French, who are they going to bring in? Are they going to bring in Patrick Roy? No, they won't. Will they bring in Marty Brodeur? No, they won't. Will they bring in Stéphane Quintal? If they bring in Quintal or Danfous that have never done this before, are they going to be better off?
Why wouldn't they bring in Brodeur? I think he'd be a great choice, don't you?
Because he's never been a GM.
He's like way up there in New Jersey, and he was an assistant in St. Louis. I mean, he's got as much experience as Bergevin had when he came in. And have you ever talked to him? I'm sure you have. He's a super smart guy.
He does. Well, listen, Marc Bergevin had a lot of experience. I think Matthew Darche will be a GM in the National Hockey League one day, and I think he'll be a good one because he's going to Harvard right now, learning under Julien Brisebois. But even if Matthew wanted to, let's just say he wanted to come, it's 2 years under his belt. Matthew will be a lot better as a GM here one day if he comes here if he's got 5 years under his belt under Julien Brisebois. So here's my speculation.
Yeah.
Marc Bergevin's in the driver's seat. He has the leverage. He knows it. He's holding out for more money.
That's no, but I agree absolutely. And he might not get the money because Mr. Molson looks rather tightly at that pocketbook of his, and at the end of the year, he might go and be back with his buddy Luc Robitaille.
Well, if he chooses to go somewhere else, that's another story. But during the pandemic, how many teams made as much money as the Montreal Canadiens? How many teams in the league have a television contract that'll pay them over $1 million a game? During the pandemic, when everyone was on an even playing field of no fans in the stands, I bet you the Canadiens made more money than anybody else.
And they just got a big favor from Jeff's buddy Francois in Quebec City.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting 21,000 fans in the stands.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. They got the green light on that.
I think am I mistaken, or it's the only place in Canada that's going to have that amount of people in the arena? So that's also great. No, but the Habs always make a lot of money. I mean, that's not estimate to the savviness of Bergevin. And look, they got to the Stanley Cup final. You can't take that away from them. As I wrote in my What the Puck this week, it was a great run. Look, I mean, to me, the probably the most amazing part of that run, because frankly, they didn't beat the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs lost, as they always do.
That's one way of looking at it. The Canadiens still went out and scored the overtime winner in game 5-6, and they went to Toronto to win.
But you know what? Look back at that series. Remember when they were down 3-1? How were you feeling the day after?
I thought they were terrible, and I was so disappointed in the way they were playing.
I remember listening to your show that morning, and you were speaking for the whole city of Montreal. We were like, fire Jeff Molson, fire Marc Bergevin, fire right? People, because they even the game they won, game 1, which they won against Toronto, they didn't play very well. Paul Byron had to score that unbelievable goal for them to win it.
Anyway, listen to me. Are you as negative as I am today? Is this a story here? Like I'm really like, I needed you to put me in a better mood, or a word. I don't know.
Look,
I don't know why, but
the thing about the injuries, Tony,
to
is we don't need to worry that much about injuries at the beginning of the year. So you know what? This is if you're going to have an injury, this is a good time to have it. So the Edmondson thing, which we don't know what it is, I'm not that worried about that, though. I don't like the look of potentially a top pairing of Romanov and Petrie. I mean, that's frightening.
But I hope he doesn't have ingrown toenails. I had that at one point in my soccer career, and it put an end to my soccer career. They had to pull both of them out. You know what the doctor told me, huh?
I have no idea.
Because a lot of people usually put them in lukewarm water with either salt or Javel.
Wow.
The doctor told me, you want them to heal right away? I said, yes. He says, go in the shower and pee on them.
Oh, my God.
I peed on them. They were cured within a week.
I didn't know you were so into alternative medicine.
I never had ingrown toenails again for the rest of my life. Hey,
but the
who's going to win the division?
Well, I mean, I see as 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure. I would say Toronto is a great regular season team. I say number 1, 2, 3 is Toronto, Tampa, and Florida. And I never count out Boston. I never count out Boston as being a strong team. And so I see Montreal as being in the wild card hunt. And that means you're fighting with all of those teams in the Metropolitan Division as well. And the other thing to keep in mind, and this won't cheer you up, again, they remember when beginning of last season, they're so great, they're so incredible.
Yeah, great start, yeah.
We're playing the crappy Vancouver Canucks. They're going to be playing the teams in their division this year, but they're also going to be playing the Rangers and the Capitals, and it's going to be a lot harder just in terms of the games they play. And then in terms of the division that they're in, they're going to be in the wild card. And you know what? In the end, they're going to be where they are most years in the past decade, which is fighting to get in and fighting to the last moment. And they might get in, they might not. I mean, much of it depends. If Carey Price has another subpar year, well, that's not going to make it easier. Luckily, honestly, I think the best move that Marc Bergevin has made in the past 3 or 4 years was picking up
to stop reading your column.
He's like, he calls me as soon as he reads it. As soon as that thing's out,
Are you serious with me? Or are you kidding me right now?
I'm serious. He's right on the phone with me. He's often.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you and him have ever had a conversation.
You know what? Someone once told me, I didn't hear it. He was on French radio, and they said, qu'est-ce que tu penses de ce que Brendan Kelly dit dans What the Puck? And he says, I never heard of that guy.
You see that? Told you.
The
Okay.
greatest I ever got, because that means, you know what it's, you know when actors say they never read the reviews?
Yeah, they read the reviews.
Are you kidding? You know, I remember Hugh Grant saying they would run out after, you know, the play opened at the West End in London.
Yeah.
And they go out for drinks, and then at 1 a.m, they go to the newsstand and pick up the. Come on, if there was a review out of your show, Tony, you wouldn't read it.
I don't know. Well, of course I would. I don't know if he reads the reviews, but I bet you he's got somebody reading your paper. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
They get a pile of paper every morning with everything, every tweet. They see everything.
They see everything. Geez, I better stop tweeting. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Hey, thanks, Tony.
Cheers. All right. Okay. Brendan Kelly, the Montreal Gazette. You know, all those hockey teams that he talked about, you can pick up their jersey at sportbuffshop.com for all of your officially licensed sports apparel. Sick merch. Check it out. Use code SICK15 for 15% off on all of their items. And now I'm going to try and make you some money.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by MyBookie.
You can place your bets on MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag/the Sick Podcast and use code SICKPICKS to double your deposit. Bet, win, get paid. All right, Brendan talked about who he likes in the Montreal Canadiens division, which is the Atlantic division. I will give you my top 3. Toronto, number 1. Florida, number 2. Tampa, number 3. And if I were to bet on the Canadiens making the playoffs today, I would bet they don't. Marinero, the Sick Podcast. Hopefully, the sky is bluer the next time we talk, and the glass will be fuller, and I'll be in a better mood. Until then, I'm going to drink my worries away. Cheers. Salute.